Semblances in RWBY can have a wide range of abilities, from creating clones or increasing speed or power, all the way to creating portals through space that can allow someone to travel across entire continents in mere moments, or even manipulate the probability of events taking place around the user themselves. Whatever the ability may be, though, all semblances can be classified into one of two categories, either active semblances or passive semblances. Active semblances are ones where the ability will not activate until it is supplied with aura, and it is up to the semblance user to decide when to do so. And once the user's aura cloak is broken, that semblance cannot be activated until the aura is regenerated. This is the category where a majority of semblances in the world of RWBY fall into. But then there are a handful of them that we do know are classified as passive semblances. These are ones where the ability is constantly active around the user, whether it is supplied with aura or not. The handful of ones that we know of so far are ones such as the luck-based semblances, Misfortune held by Qrow Bronwyn and Good Fortune held by Clover Ebby, and the most recent addition being James Ironwood's semblance of metal that was revealed in the RWBY RTX panel that took place a couple weeks ago, but I'll make a separate video on that a little bit later to go into more detail and implications of that semblance. These passive semblances are ones where the effects can be amped up if the user supplies it with more aura, but even after the aura cloak is broken, those semblances still remain active, and there are multiple examples of this in the RWBY series already. Regardless of what category a semblance falls into, though, the effects of the ability are always temporary, except for one instance, one semblance that was revealed in RWBY Before the Dawn. I made a specific video on that, going over why it's broken, what doors that would open if that remains canon, etc. So, there's that category. But one thing that was also introduced in RWBY Before the Dawn makes me question if there are ways that temporary effects of a semblance might be able to become permanent. So, since I will be referencing RWBY Before the Dawn, I will be saying spoiler warnings for those who have not read the book. I will be going over events that are crucial to the plot, characters and semblances, etc., so fair warning on that. The main antagonists of RWBY Before the Dawn are Jax and Jillian Asturias. They are twins, and they both have very powerful semblances. Jillian Asturias in particular. Her semblance is Aura Siphon. It is the ability to literally siphon aura from others. By putting her hands on someone, she can take their aura away from them and add it to her own. She cannot drain anyone completely, and it is not a permanent effect. They are always left with a little bit of their aura that will regenerate over time. And similarly, the aura that Jillian has added to herself will diminish over time. But in the plot of Before the Dawn, she had numerous people that she was keeping in an almost comatose state and constantly supplying herself with more aura, so much so that her aura became physically colored and was a rainbow of colors that anyone could see with just the naked eye. So she had an extremely strong aura, much stronger than even Talk's semblance could supply. And because of that, she was, a terrifying foe to deal with. But there was one time where Jillian's semblance had permanent effects on those around her, and that is when she was biologically connected to other people. That is, when she was still in the womb, along with her brother Jax, and her semblance affected both her mother and her twin brother. When they were in the womb, Jill, her semblance was active, and her mother was constantly being drained of her aura, and similarly with Jax, so much so that Jax was in danger and they had to perform a procedure to get the children out of the womb before a natural birth was to occur. Her mother died from this. She could not survive the surgery, and Jax was left with a permanently reduced aura, and Jillian's aura was permanently increased. She literally stole the aura from her brother, so much so that Jax couldn't even activate his semblance or even realize his semblance until Jill supplied him with more aura. As also with being able to siphon aura from others, she can gift aura to others, including her own, and she did that for her brother so he could live a more normal life. But the key thing there is that her semblance, while in the womb, had permanent effects. This brings into question a lot of things about semblances, whether semblances are predetermined from birth, whether your soul already manifests a single semblance and you just have to discover it or awaken it at some point throughout your life. If it's possible to awaken a semblance in the womb, because this seems like a very rare occurrence, one that we haven't even heard of happening in the RWBY series until this point. Like, for example, Nora Valkyrie, her semblance, being able to absorb electricity into her muscles, was awakened because she just happened to be struck by lightning on one crazy Thursday. If she was never struck by lightning, would she have had the potential to awaken a different semblance if she was put into a different life-threatening situation, etc.? Or, if she just never experienced an electrical shock throughout her life, would she have never discovered her semblance because the semblance that she has, high voltage, was predetermined at her birth by just the very nature of her soul? So there are certain questions here, and by Jillian awakening her semblance in the womb or having it active in the womb, which she later had to discover and learn how to use later in life thanks to the help of her father, this definitely implies that semblances are predetermined by birth, by your general soul. So there are questions here, and I can expand upon them in other videos if you guys so desire. Let me know in the comments below if you want me to do something like that. But I want to focus more on the effects that a passive semblance might have in these types of scenarios. Because when it comes to passive semblances, go back to Volume 4 and when we finally found out what Qrow's semblance was. He said he was born cursed. He was born unlucky, meaning that his semblance was activated right from birth. So it definitely leans towards semblances are predetermined, but with Qrow being born with his misfortune, that raises the possibility that while he was in the womb, this passive semblance was active and possibly affected his mother and possibly even Raven permanently. We don't know exactly what happened to Raven and Qrow's parents, but considering it does seem that his tribe maybe shunned him or he had this bad luck his entire life, maybe his mother died from the effects of Qrow's semblance and he blamed himself for that. It's also possible that Raven might have a bit of bad luck, maybe manifesting itself in the way that she forms bonds with other people. She doesn't really seem to have good luck when it comes to, keeping a relationship with Ty, or a relationship with her daughter or her brother, etc. Seems like she can't really form those relationships, so that might be an effect of Qrow's semblance. But more to the point in this video, there is another set of twins in the RWBY series that I want to focus on. Hansel and Gretel, or rather, Hazel and Gretchen Reinart. Hazel's sister died on a mission at Beacon Academy, and Hazel blames Ozpin for that. But could it actually be a kind of result of Hazel's semblance of numbing agent? It might actually be a passive style semblance. Him being able to nullify pain could be something that is constantly active. I mean, look at the fight at Haven Academy. He was put through a hell of a lot of abuse, and also speared in the gut by the stinger of the Queen Lancer that Weiss summoned. And then he was able to run away from the fight afterwards, make it all the way back to Salem's Citadel, etc. We don't know how much he had to rest and recover, but being speared in the gut seems like it would take a decent amount of aura to nullify that amount of pain. And yet, even after it seems Nora broke his aura and he was stabbed in the gut, he noticed it, but it wasn't crippling. He was still able to fight, keep going, and I think his numbing agent has or is a passive style semblance that he can use his aura to amplify the effects and reduce the pain that he's feeling. Because of that, I think that his semblance may have been active his entire life, and when he was in the womb, his semblance might have actually passed a bit of its effect on to Gretchen, that she isn't as aware of the pain that she is feeling, or possibly his numbing agent numbed some of her senses in battle in other scenarios, and so when she went out on this mission at Beacon Academy, where she wanted to become a huntress, it led to a situation where, when on this mission, she was confronted with Grimm or other assailants, whatever it was that she was fighting against. I hope we get more information on this in the future, but she might have actually been at a disadvantage or didn't notice something happening that led to her death because of Hazel's semblance permanently affecting her in the womb. Now, if this is the case, that would mean that Hazel's anger towards Ozpin may not be entirely warranted. Granted, Ozpin is the headmaster of one of the 4 Huntsman Academies and is responsible responsible for the care of his students. If he didn't notice that Gretchen's senses were dulled, then sent her out on a mission anyways, then yes, he could share in some of the responsibility. But the inherent nature of huntsmen and huntresses, the job itself requires them to put themselves in harm's way, and with so many students, it's hard for one person to look out for all of them. But if Hazel comes to this realization that his semblance was partly responsible for Gretchen's death, his anger towards Ozpin might redirect itself towards anger at himself. And if that's the case, that might permanently affect Hazel's motivations moving forward. Currently, he is a member of Salem's inner circle because of his hatred for Ozpin. At least that's what we're led to believe. So, if he comes to this realization that he blames himself, or his semblance is partly responsible for it, then those motivations might no longer align with Salem, and he might try to defect. Not to mention, that mission that Gretchen went on that resulted in her death, it may have been one hunting Grimm. Salem's the one that controls the Grimm currently, so there might be some falling out of that regard. And possibly Hazel might decide to save Emerald and Mercury, get them away from Salem's inner circle, and try to save them at all costs, even if it costs him his life, because he wasn't able to save Gretchen, so now he wants to save these two instead. Numerous different ways that this could play out, but it's an interesting possibility that I've been thinking of ever since reading Before the Dawn, and the numerous new things that we've experienced because of that novel. There are a lot of things that happened in Before the Dawn that kind of conflict with what we already know or what was thought to be pre-established in the RWBY series, so whether some things remain canon, whether they will be seen in the RWBY series itself, it remains to be seen. As of right now, Before the Dawn is canon, and I would love to know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. As it stands now, it seems that semblances can have permanent effects on others if there is a biological connection between two individuals, and that semblances also have the possibility of activating in the womb, which adds an extra risk to having a child in general in the world of RWBY. The mother might be affected by a child's semblance, or especially when it comes to twins. As the title of this video implies, twins carry with them a sense of a curse, that twins could affect each other with their semblances. There is twice the risk of one of them having a semblance that becomes active, etc. And this also brings into question other things. What if there are conjoined twins, for example? Having their bodies physically conjoined together, would they have two semblances? Would they have one semblance? Would semblances work in a different way? How would things actually work? What are the actual biological implications of semblance in general? So many different things that hopefully will be answered at some point, maybe in an extra novel or info book, etc. But right now I want to know what you guys think overall. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to subscribe, join the Guild of the Eternal Flame to keep up with all of the other videos coming out on this channel. The Phoenix Festival Tournament is entering its final round next week. So much more content to come out before Volume 8, and a lot more to come out during Volume 8, so a lot to look forward to. Tweet me at Phoenix Knight 7, join our Discord server as well, linked in the description below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.